Hello, this is the Reverend Dr. David Chotka of Spirit Equipped Ministries. I want to start off tonight by saying that the story wasn't true. It was simply not true. Now, I've heard the story before. You probably heard the story before. So I decided to do some research, but it was what's called an urban legend. An urban legend is usually some nice story or some story that's a feel-good story, or it's a piece of history, or it's an inconvenient piece of history. But when you research it and you look in the history books, you discover that somebody made up the whole thing. Now, in this case, it was almost true. Not quite, but almost. Now, let me tell you how I heard about it the first time. The first time I read about it in a book, it had to do with a bombing raid during World War II. The bombs were dropping, and there was a churchyard inside occupied France. The bomb went off, and the shrapnel from the bomb blew up. It landed next to this churchyard, and this statue of Jesus lost its hands as part of the collateral damage of the bombing raid. Very interesting story, but not true. So it didn't happen in France. That's the point I'm making. This story didn't happen in France. So I heard the next story, and I was once again reading a book, and the story goes that there was a bombing raid over Nazi Germany. Allied bombers were dropping bombs, and it landed adjacent to a Lutheran church attended by the faithful. Same war, different side of the conflict, different bombers, different bombs in a different country. And once again, the Lord's extended hands, which were outreached in mercy, were blasted off of the statue by the shock of the blast or by flying shrapnel or something like that. Well, it didn't happen in Germany either, though it sounded considerably more than plausible. It's one of those stories that has a ring of truth attached to it. So I checked out the whole thing, and it soon became clear that something of the sort happened, but it didn't happen during World War II or during a bombing raid. In fact, it happened in or around 1980, not 1941 or 42 or even 1945. And by the way, there was no bomb, and there was no war. There was, however, a churchyard. It was in the United States of America, in California, far away from anything to do with World War II. It was a churchyard that was Roman Catholic. It belonged to English and Spanish-speaking faithful during an extended time of peace. There was a statue of the risen Lord. His arms were extended to a hurting world at the entrance of Christ the King Catholic Church, though not at all in Europe. It was actually in San Diego, California. That figure of the Lord was shaped with its hands outstretched to welcome those who would come to him and find refuge and rest. In or around 1980, about 35 years after the war that ended to bring peace in our time, vandals broke into the church to steal and to desecrate. Those hands were taken off because somebody smashed them due to vandalism. And somehow that seems to make this thing worse. If those hands had been taken off due to some accident, when it wasn't targeted, then it would have been an unfortunate thing. But those vandals broke into that church and purposely took the hands off the statue of Jesus in order to deliberately deface something that was holy. Well, the pastor and the people were appalled. Many people wanted to donate time or monies to effect a repair to the damaged statue. Actually, one artist offered to repair the hands at absolutely no charge. But the good people of the parish had a different idea. In fact, it came from the pastor first of all, and then it was adopted by the congregation. They put 2 plaques at the base of the statue. One was in English, and the other was in Spanish, because the congregation there were 2 congregations, one speaking Spanish, the other English. No tengo manos más de las tuyas, it says in Spanish at the base of that statue. Now, it seems much stronger in Spanish than in English because it's written in the intimate form used between family and friends. In English, the message is blunt and stark. I have no hands but yours. In a word, Jesus does nothing unless he does it through us. Now, that's profound. But is it true? Well, the Bible does tell us that God gave the oversight of planet Earth into the hands of our first parents, into human hands, and they ruined it. And when their stewardship of the planet failed, God did not remove the earth from being under the care of human hands. In fact, he continually worked through humans Over and over and over again, he raised up Abraham, and he raised up the children of Abraham, and he sent them on a journey, and then he wound up raising up Moses after he put them in Egypt, and then he raised up the kings and the prophets and so on, all human. Now, if I had given something to someone and they had ruined it as badly as our first parents did, and as their children continued to do so, I would wonder if I would have done the right thing. But God is not a word breaker. He gave humans the oversight of the earth, and we have it still. So he kept his word and placed the earth into human hands. Now, in the end, here's what he did. To take it back from its fallen estate, God himself entered into the conditions he established in the first place. God himself became a human to take the world back and to place it into his hands, the hands of Christ, hands that stretch out to receive nail wounds, to heal our wounded world. Then he died, then he rose again, and then he sent his Spirit to fill our hearts with his Spirit so that, animated by his Spirit, we can move our hands in harmony with his and touch a wounded world. Seems the good folk in San Diego, that pastor and that congregation, had their fingers on something. Would you be his hands? It seems the only hands he has are yours. This is Reverend Dr. David Chotka of Spirit Equipped Ministries. If you would like to receive bi-weekly blogs, you can go to the website, www.spiritequipped.com. You can go to the opt-in section and sign up, or you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. But my prayer for you is that you would yield your hands to his. God's blessing.